Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Baltzell. I'm the statewide salmon and steelhead manager for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Welcome to day 4 of PFMC week. Just gonna try to let folks join in this morning. Sorry, we're a little bit delayed getting started this morning. We had a internal huddle with the director this morning, trying to get him up to speed on stuff. Busy times. We did have some modeling done through the salmon technical team and the council yesterday. There was a small change made to sport season in 8.2 in the Snohomish River. There was some a little bit of shaping on the ocean that we'll have Derek run through. Unfortunately, we are not down to a single treaty troll option in the ocean yet, so we still have multiple modeling runs that we're dealing with. Had a number of meetings with Puget Sound tribes yesterday, so we'll try to give you an update on those. But maybe this morning to start off, I might turn it over to Derek Dapp from our FRAM modeling team to go through some of the modeling that was done yesterday. And from there, we'll talk through some of the meetings and then talk about next steps for today. So Derek, if you're ready and available.
Thanks, Mark, and good morning to everybody. I'll share my screen in just a moment here. I thought I might start us off on Chinook this morning. And maybe I'll start off with the changes that we saw in the ocean. So the macaw treaty troll option has dropped to a single option from 3 before. And that option is 40,000 in the ocean. The QTA options for treaty troll remain the same as they've been. So that would be 35K, 25K, and 0. As far as the non-treaty fishery in the ocean, we're still at a single option of 59K. However, there was some slight movements there, particularly across time steps for Chinook. As far as for changes in Puget Sound go, Mark had mentioned we had done a little bit of a shift in area 8.2, the season there. And we can describe what that is in just a moment. Likewise, we had kind of a few other marine changes. So north of Ayoc, we modified the non-retention there to be starting on July 11th rather than July 1st. And then we saw some updates in the marine area treaty fisheries, namely for the Treaty 1011 pink directed fishery and for the Treaty 8A Coho directed fishery. There were a few freshwater changes that we saw. Just very briefly going across some of those, we saw some changes to Nisqually Sport, the Skagit net fisheries, and as Mark had mentioned, the scheduling update for Snohomish Sport. So I will put the results of that model run up on the screen now before taking questions, and I'll just walk through those real fast. Let me share my screen.
So Derek, if I may, and for folks out there listening, we did get these model runs up on our website this morning. So they should be there in the north of Falcon section. Underneath, I think model inputs or model runs. Don't remember quite how it's structured, but it is there in the model run section on the north of Falcon page. So folks can either go grab those and download them or view them on the website. So thanks, Derek. Go ahead.
So we've got our now 4 ocean option runs here. You can see going across the screen. Starting over here in the columns of D to F, we see our singular macaw option, and you can see what that represents as far as the ocean goes in the second row here. So for example, once again on that macaw option, 59K non-treaty and 40K treaty as the quota in the ocean. As we move across to the right, we can see our range of QTA options, and those are ranging from 35K treaty to 0 treaty. And we can see how that affects our results here. First place I might take us to is the lower Columbia natural toolies, which we can see down here on this row. Once again, 38% objective. And we can see that we're meeting that in all of our ocean options except the very highest one. As far as Puget Sound stocks go, we haven't really seen a big shift from recent meetings there. The two places where I would highlight that we have seen a little bit of a shift are for Skagit Springs and for Skagit Summer Falls. As I'd mentioned kind of earlier, as I was talking about the Puget Sound changes, there were some changes to the in-river fisheries there. So we have seen a decrease on both the Skagit Springs and Skagit Summer Falls. We are still a little bit off those objectives, as you can see in this in the modeling currently. So once again, I won't go too much through the other stocks. I'm just kind of scrolling through now so that folks can see. Those haven't really changed too much from our set of model runs yesterday, but I did want to pause there and open it up and see if there are any questions about Chinook before I spoke to Coho.
So just as a reminder to folks, if you're on the phone, *9 to raise your hand. If you're using the Zoom platform, there's a raised hand button on some versions at the bottom. There's also an emotions icon that sometimes has the raised hand feature, just depending on your version. Gabe has a question. Go ahead, Gabe. Looks like you'll need to unmute yourself, Gabe.
Thanks, Mark. Any movement on macaw treaty troll in the straits?
So I think Derek described they did get to one option. I think we were hopeful that they would be a little bit lower or closer to last year on their Chinook option. I think it's at 40,000 is what Derek described it as. So I think I believe that there's movements for the Quinault and or QTA tribes and macaw to try to get together again today. We had discussions in our morning delegation meeting for the council about some potential moves on the ocean, but we're all hopeful that that log jam will get removed today and we can get to a final ocean package.
How about for the strait?
Oh, sorry, Gabe. I was just going to say, so they did make a move to get down to one option yesterday. I think we were just hoping it would be a farther move. So,
all right.
And I think you were also asking about the winter treaty troll. Derek, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they reduced the winter treaty troll yet. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mark. That winter treaty troll number is still at 8,500.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was referring to.
Any other Chinook questions before Derek moves to Coho? I don't see any, Derek.
Thanks, Mark. I'll move on to Coho now then. So on Coho in the ocean, we saw a similar drop to one quota there. I believe it was 40,000, although I might actually just pause and see if I can get Kyle to double check that and make sure I'm correct.
I'm sorry, Derek, I missed your question.
The treaty troll quota for Coho was 40,000 in the macaw option. Is that correct as well?
That's correct.
Thank you, Kyle. And then additionally, there was a shift to the non-treaty quota in the ocean to 100,000.
Can we blow that up a little bit, Derek? Can you zoom in a little? Thank you.
No worries on that. And so you can see this represents our QTA options, so our A options, and you can see kind of what the range of those is from once again 100K in the non-treaty, and you can see it ranging from 16.5K in the high to 0 in the low. I might just highlight one of the bigger changes from yesterday, which is that we got updates to some of our in-river terminal fisheries on the coast, and that had a little bit of effect on the wheat stock. So you can see what the effect of that was. Once again, for queets, we have an exploitation rate goal of 20% there. And you can see across our range of A options, we're now meeting that 20% goal across all 3 options. One thing that I would mention, I misspoke a little bit yesterday. I was looking at this when I was referring to escapement, and I just wanted to correct myself. This is actually the ocean escapement as to the terminal area. So my apologies that I misspoke on that yesterday. Looking at our B option run, where the treaty troll option is slightly higher. Once again, looking at 40K for that treaty troll option, we can move down to queets, and we can see in the case of treaty troll being at 40K, we see that there we are a little bit over that 20% management objective. So that's kind of where we saw the big shift there for Coho. There were some changes to the 8A fishery, the 8A treaty fishery. So maybe I'll just quickly also scroll up to Snohomish, and you can see that accordingly, those escapements have increased a little bit. We're still off of our 55K goal, but I just wanted to also highlight how those had changed, as well as over here on the Skagit stocks. Once again, we have a 35% exploitation rate goal. And we can see we're still slightly above on those. So I might just pause there and see if there are any questions about where we're at on Coho, about queets, Snohomish, or Skagit.
Go ahead, Carl.
Thanks, Mark. I think I know the answer to this, but on the Skagit, I mean, this one doesn't show the pre-terminal, but am I correct in thinking that the majority of that exploitation is a in-river fishery?
Well, I wouldn't say a majority, Carl. There's quite a bit in the marine areas. So just for instance, Carl, and because I know you've been paying attention to this, although there are some intertribal issues currently in the Skagit, more centering around Chinook, I don't think those issues are centered around Coho. And I think we're all looking at where we can shave some Coho out of the Skagit. If we're looking at kind of where those big hitters are, unfortunately, Carl, Area 10 sticks out like a sore thumb for Coho impacts. And if we're looking at things in the way the model comes out, the biggest impact in the Area 10 fishery comes in the month of June on Skagit. So we're exploring a number of options there, including, like we had talked about previously, going to mark selective. If we do flip the switch and go mark selective in Area 10 in June, that basically reduces that exploitation rate on Skagit by 1%. So that's a pretty big takeaway from the exploitation rate. So obviously there's a lot of things that need to happen before we would move in that direction. I think those of you who have been around are familiar with some of the co-managers' feelings around mark selective fishing, especially in that marine area. So I think we still have some further discussions to have. That's just one of the moves we're looking at on Skagit. Another one is kind of in the 8-1 fishery, trying to align that with what's been proposed for 8-2, at least on the closing date for Area 8-1. So just thanks for bringing up the question. I know that was more than kind of what you were looking for, but Skagit's one where we're likely to make some moves. Hopefully we're not reducing much time, but maybe just trying to flip the switch on some opportunity to mark selective to help get down on that ER.
And that freshwater sport, is that already selective, I assume?
I think that's non-selective. We don't have huge hatchery coho programs in the Skagit. It's more of a natural run. Right now, I think those impacts are both in the pink and coho time period on that. That's probably if we have to reduce further in the package, that would be the next place we would go. Gabe has his hand up.
Thanks, Mark. What months would be under consideration for going Mark Selective and 10?
Just June.
Great, thank you.
So I know Derek talked through it briefly. We did, I think I mentioned earlier, or maybe Derek did, we made a move in the A2 fishery yesterday, adjusting the season from what was currently proposed or proposed a couple days ago. The original proposal started August 1 through September 6th over Labor Day weekend. We've agreed to move that opening time forward. So it'll now open, or it's proposed to be open on August 14th and fish all the way through September 19th. We've also been in discussions with Layla. They have a test fishery out in Area 8.2 that we get an in-season update from. Well, it's actually not a test fishery, it's their commercial fishery, but it allows us to get an in-season update. So we've had discussions that if that in-season update for Snohomish Coho comes in, that we could keep that marine area opportunity open as well as expand opportunity in the river. We've kind of all centered around the September 19th closing date as a time when we would have an ISU update that would inform whether or not we can keep the season open or extend the season in the river. So that's some of the discussions we've been having there around the 8.2 fishery. But I think we've come to an agreement there, and Layla also reduced their fishery, their Coho directed fishery as well yesterday. So both sides made moves in that direction yesterday. I might just take a minute to, oh, go ahead, Gabe.
Was there any reduction to the Skycomish summer Chinook fishery?
No, but just so you're aware, Gabe, we do have some increased hatchery broodstocking goals on the Skycomish for that hatchery program. Part of that broodstocking elevated goal is also going to be happening at Bernie Gobin down in Tulalip Bay. They don't usually take broodstock there, but I think this year there's a plan to take some. So we can try to meet those elevated program goals. So there is going to be some language in the pamphlet about potential intermittent closure days, just to try to make sure that we achieve those goals. We don't anticipate they would be long-term closures, couple days here, couple days there, just to make sure that we're feeling good about our level of brood stocking. So that's in play too, but no, the summer fishery hasn't been changed at all.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep. Gary, go ahead.
How about now?
I gotcha.
Okay. Either I missed it or I didn't hear you mention anything about the pier at Mukilteo, and that was one of my questions.
Yep. I actually posed that in the conversation. That will be open to coincide with the marine area fishery this year. I also talked about a long-term fishing, how we would deal with that long-term. So we agreed to continue those conversations. I would just say if we're able to come to an agreement on, keeping that open year round, or kind of what we needed to do to make that happen, we'll be continuing those conversations through the year. I know Kirsten Simonson, our bio, has reached out, and I think she's meeting with some of those folks around that project this Friday. So we're starting to partner with them to make sure that we're getting that checked off. But for this year, it will be open at least during the time that 8.2 is open.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So did I just see another question? No. So I'm just gonna maybe look at my calendar really quick and tick through some of the meetings we had yesterday. We had a co-manager meeting for a couple hours in the morning just to talk about a number of the different issues that are facing us this year. We had 2 separate meetings yesterday with NOAA Fisheries and the Skagit tribes, as well as Skokomish. There's a number of different concerns in each of those areas that they wanted to discuss with NOAA. In Hood Canal, it had to do with a fishery proposal in the north end that Skokomish is concerned about, that we talked about with NOAA. And then in the Skagit, I think we've been pretty clear that the tribes are having an in-river allocation disagreement, and so they wanted to have a discussion with NOAA about paths forward and how we might be able to come to resolution there to get through north of Falcon. Sorry, going back to my calendar. As I said, we had a Snohomish meeting yesterday. We also had some public meetings for Willapon Grays Harbor last night. We have a full slate of meetings scheduled for today, starting at 9 o'clock with the full co-manager group. At 10 o'clock, we'll be back with the Skagit tribes. 12:30 will be with the Mid-Hood Canal co-managers talking about chum. Then this afternoon, we have a meeting with Puyallup and White River tribes regarding Area 11 and Puyallup River fisheries. Following that, we have some further discussions with Bellingham Bay co-managers on commercial opportunities up there. And then I believe we're due to come back together as co-managers at the end of the day. Hopefully there's been some further discussion on the coast and we can talk about further modeling changes to do prior to Wednesday. Things are getting tight here as we move towards the end. We're looking at the potential of final council action being pushed to Thursday. Obviously, we got a lot of work to do to try to meet all these objectives before the end of the day, today and tomorrow. So there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things that could happen and could be roadblocks, but I think we've got several paths forward that we're feeling good about. Director Susawin and the governor's office is engaged on most of these conversations. So we've got the right people in place to have the conversations and try to get to resolution by Thursday. So maybe I'll stop there, and I see Carl's got his hand up again. Go ahead, Carl.
Well, yeah, that was going to be my question is, aren't we supposed to be presenting packages to the council like by the end of the day tomorrow? And I mean, I know this has been kind of the norm the last couple of years, is dragging out some of these, some of these options to get plugged into the model later and later. But this is crazy, man. I don't know how you guys are going to get this done, but so you might extend. The idea is to present this to the council tomorrow night, and then, but you might have extended another day, is my question, or?
So, and I don't know if Kyle wants to jump in because he's our council guy and may have some maybe jump in if I say something wrong, Carl. But I believe if the co-managers have modeling changes, I believe we have an opportunity to get in front of the council today and present those for a modeling change. And that could include treaty troll changes as well. I think we would have another chance tomorrow potentially to get in front of the council. I think from the council perspective, they were expecting to do final action tomorrow. So I don't know if any of those conversations have happened to consider pushing final action to Thursday morning, but Thursday morning would be kind of it for final action on modeling changes.
And so you still have strategies to make some adjustments in your proposals once you get the final numbers for the ocean option plugged in.
Yes, and of course, all these things could happen at the same time, right? We could get a set of modeling inputs for treaty troll as well as inside fisheries, and run all that together and see what comes out the other side, and see where we, we may have to make some further shaping. I think we feel good about kind of what those scenarios look like, regardless of kind of what happens in the ocean. I think we know what levels we need to reach inside as co-managers. So again, a lot of moving pieces, but we came in pretty conservative this year in our package, and we haven't really made very many moves to try to reduce. I think some of the moves we've made so far, I think they're going to help us to get to agreement. Again, as I talked about through those Coho changes earlier, I'm hopeful that we can make those changes and not reduce time, but just try to flip the switch on some mark selective and preserve as much time as we can.
Thanks, Mark. Obviously, that June piece is super important to a lot of folks, so we appreciate you trying to keep that in there, even if it takes a MSF adjustment.
Well, and I think I told you guys yesterday, one of the concerns that we've heard from the co-managers is just the boundary piece and having Area 11 open for Chinook opportunity and Area 10 closed for Chinook retention. So that fits in there too, but I think that's less of an issue. Again, that's more of an enforcement issue than a management issue. So any other questions or comments or concerns? So as I said, we have, I know we sent some modeling results out to our advisory group this morning, but we also have those model results up on our website for folks to look at on the modeling page. So I would encourage folks to go take a look at that. If you have particular questions, reach out to a staff member. I probably won't be able to answer you, but Jake Rice or Kirsten Simonson or Chad Herring are all part of our Puget Sound team that can try to get your questions answered for you. So as go ahead, Gary.
How about now?
Gotcha.
Okay, yeah. So is that matrix up there too?
I think we were looking around this morning in our files for a matrix to update. It's probably not up there right now, but it will be up there hopefully within the next hour or so.
Okay.
And we can send that out to the group too once we have it put together.
Okay, thank you.
So I talked through our slate of meetings today. We are going to have, as I said, an end of the day check-in with our co-managers. That could lead to some additional modeling this evening. Obviously, as we get that modeling done or we center on any proposed changes, we'll try to get that up on the web and get an email out to folks and let them know. I don't think Jake had a chance yesterday to send out an kind of a meeting invite to our advisory group if we needed to get you together. Hopefully he can get on that today and we'll get that sent out to should there be a need to get everybody together on a short period of time. So with that, if there's any other questions, staff has got a little bit of time before our co-manager meeting at 9 to huddle up. So again, I really appreciate everybody being here this morning. Thanks for hanging in there with us. This is never easy, and I think COVID makes this even harder, not being able to kind of look at each other in a hotel and talk through some of these issues together. So hopefully we can get there in the future, maybe try to do some of this both virtually and in person. But again, I really appreciate everybody being here and providing comments and questions. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to go through any stuff. And I hope everybody has a great day and take care and enjoy some sunshine.